Hi guys, welcome to another All Things Tennis racket review video. Today we're going to be looking at the most slept on rackets, rackets that I think have flown under the radar and deserve a bit of recognition. For me, these are some of the most underrated rackets from the most underrated tennis brands. Ones that you don't normally see in people's hands, they're not necessarily on the shop floor as much as they should be, but rackets that are really well built. And for me, if people gave them a go and demoed them as part of our demo program, they really come out as one of the top dogs. Okay, so let's get into it. Okay, so the first racket we're going to look at is a Mantis Pro 310. Now this racket's been out a while, okay, but why do I still think it's one of the most underrated rackets? Is that the price point is excellent. In the UK you can get one of these for just over £100, okay, and it's a traditional box beam frame for players that love control orientated rackets and a nice feeling racket. This is a racket that you should demo for sure. It doesn't give you a lot of power, but that's not what it's all about. It's about that control. Think about like a prestige level of control, or maybe even a pro stuff. It's a very thin beamed racket, okay? It's made with 100% high modulus carbon in the frame, so it's a very crisp feeling racket. The lovely Mantis Pro grip at the bottom here, and it's actually strung really nicely at stock, so it's strung with Mantis Comfort Synthetic, and it's a racket that we actually sell quite a few of here at ATT, because once you get it in people's hands and people demo these rackets, they're really, really lovely. The price point is brilliant, and for me it looks a very nice racket. You've got the nice detailing, the Mantis up here, the black and silver classic look. It looks really nice, strung up with some silver poly or the black synthetic that you see here. It's just a lovely feeling racket. One thing Mantis have as well is that custom pallet handle. So if you're picking up these rackets and maybe they're not in stock in your grip size, or you've already got one, you want to change your handle, just like Head, it's got that custom pallet system, so you can change your handle size, which is a really good feature. The grip is quite rectangular feeling. It's more of a traditional Head feeling grip. So those who like that feel, so it's not very rounded, that's something to look out for. And just the frame quality is very, very good. For me, they're very close to spec when we've been looking at them, and when we've been hitting with them, everyone gets on with them. They're very crisp feeling rackets. So we talked about that 100% high modulus carbon. That translates to a 66 RA, which is relatively stiff, but not as stiff as a Babolat, for example. It gives that nice crisp feeling. This one's 98 square inches and 310 grams. With a nice open 16-19 pattern. Tennis Nerd, who we sent a few of these to, really liked it when he's done a review of it. It was voted one of the best rackets for Tennis Head back in the day when it was reviewed, and you can still find them and they're a great racket to go for. Okay, on the subject of Mantis then, let's stay with it for one more of the most slept on rackets, the PS300 for Mantis, okay? This is a frame that's on its third or fourth iteration. It's a really great racket for those who want like that pure drive feel, a nice powerful frame, 100 square inch head, so relatively easy to use, but it's a little bit softer feeling than pure drive. And for me, it's a really good platform racket as well, something we've talked about before on this channel. Those who like that pure drive feel, the power, they maybe want to lead it up, want a bit more stability. It feels really nice with a little bit more lead at 3 and 9 o'clock in the frame. Maybe you want a bit more of a headlight balance, whack a leather grip on it. It's a really slept on racket in terms of the price point. It's a lot lower than its competitive rivals in terms of the pure drive, Head Extreme, etc. But the build quality's there. If you had these blacked out, with all the other brands blacked out, I wonder what one would come out on top genuinely. Maybe you want to pick up a couple of new rackets, maybe on a little bit of a budget, and you want to stand out from the crowd. Look, these brands don't have the same marketing power as your Heads, Babolats, etc. But the build quality for me is just as good. Okay, they're 100% graphite. The good thing about Mantis I like is its no frills approach. Look, most rackets these days are 100% full graphite. That is the material to go for. Graphite obviously is a form of carbon, so they market it as a high modulus carbon, but there's no frills, there's no extra technology there. Okay, it's just a really well built 100% graphite racket. You'll stand out from the crowd, and also you're paying 30–40% less than other competitors. So it's a slept on racket, it's not well known about, and one for you definitely to go and demo. Okay, another racket that's definitely flown under the radar for me. I've gone through lots of tennis clubs in the UK and I've very rarely seen this one, okay? This is a really truly special frame, the Prince Phantom. It shows off Prince's heritage and their engineering, and no other frame is like this on the market, I can guarantee you, okay? What makes it special? Look how thin that beam is. The Phantom is an ultra thin beam. That's going to give you tons of feel, okay, on the court, and really nice ability to craft out drop shots and volley, okay. This isn't a racket that if you're a topspin baseliner, you may as well skip forward a couple of minutes because this isn't for you. This is a racket for a player that likes to be crafty, a bit of slice, and also, you know, move their opponent around the court with lots of control. When we demoed this racket, I found that you know, if you're trying to brush up the back of the ball and dictate from way behind the baseline, you're not really doing what this racket is meant for. This racket is meant for someone taking the ball on the rise and coming in. The feel was amazing. We used a hybrid in it, so I think it benefits from something, you know, with a hybrid setup or a multi. The feel on volleys, really nice. For me, one of the best, I volleyed best with this racket, I think, out of any other rackets I've tested, just because the feel was there. The colour scheme for me is really beautiful. So you've got this deep purple colour that runs all the way through. And it's for someone that, like it says here, longer, faster strokes. For me, so you've got to have pretty good technique to use this. If you're a player that has maybe used, you know, Prince before in the past, or very thin beam Pro Staff or Prestige back in the day, this is something that is similar in the sense that it's all about that feel of control, but I've never seen a racket that thin. I'm not sure how well that comes up on camera, but it is a really beautiful looking racket, and it's truly different, okay? If you're a bit of a racket collector, racketaholic like me, then it's a racket definitely to have in your bag, because you're going to be hitting shots that you wouldn't normally hit with other brands, playing slightly different. It's a racket you have to alter your game maybe slightly if you're normally a baseliner like myself, but it's lots and lots of fun to use. I really fell in love hitting different shots with this racket, and I'm sure you will do. What's different about the racket? So it's got that Prince Textream technology in the shaft here, so it's nice and solid. You've also got the ATS system up here. So well, that's different in this particular Phantom, this ATS system. They didn't have it in the old Phantoms, which adds a bit of stability. So it's a common feature for me. When a racket's very thin, at the same weight, a thicker frame is going to feel much more stable. Where this frame, you know, at a lower weight, doesn't feel that stable. I think you need to add a little bit of lead if you get the 300 or 305 gram version. They also do this Phantom with the 03 port, so if you're a fan of those back in the day, really innovative way of having a racket where you've got the 03 ports and it swings through very quickly. It does give a bit more of a softer feel, so something that feels different than other rackets, the 03, whereas this is more traditional, that's a more crisper, stiffer feel. But yeah, a lovely racket. I mean, this one in particular is 310 grams and the 100-inch head, so bigger mid-plus frame, almost similar to like a Prince oversized graphite back in the day. If you think about the old Michael Chang rackets, a bigger oversized head but very thin beam, similar to that, and this is kind of maybe a modern day interpretation of that. So yeah, really interesting racket. If you get a chance to demo it, please do, because I guarantee it's not going to feel like anything you've played with before. Now this is a racket I absolutely love. This is the Dunlop CX 200 Tour, new for this year. This racket is all about feel and control. So it's got that 95-inch head, 1619 pattern, similar to like a Prestige. It's got a very thin beam, so it's 20.5 millimeters beam, straight beam all the way through. It's a really nice feeling racket. Again, not for someone that wants to load up with heavy topspin, but maybe take the ball on the rise, hit a little bit flatter. You want that perfect control, laser-like control, trying to hit lines. This is a really slept on racket, and the fact that for me it's as good as a Prestige, it's as good as a Pro Staff. It really is. The build quality is so good as well. Dunlop, you know, the Mike Ashley years has hurt them in terms of reputation, in terms of, you know, it's a racket you might have thought you could pick up from Sports Direct. This is definitely not the case with these new Dunlop CX rackets. This is high-end, really premium racket, okay? The price point is really good as well. It's not going to be on those high 200s. It's going to be, you know, mid to high 100s in terms of the RRP, and obviously with us you'll get a discount from the RRP. It's just a really nice feeling racket. It's endorsed by Kevin Anderson. For me, that kind of suits that style of play. Someone that likes, you know, has their own power. This isn't going to give you lots of power. It's a controller-orientated frame, but the feel is excellent. Really one of the best feeling rackets out there. So which kind of player would I recommend this for? I've already gone into how they might play, but if you like a Pro Staff autograph, 340 grams, okay, but want something a little bit more easy to handle, a bit more maneuverable, maybe you find that weight a little bit heavy, try this racket. It's 310, okay, but it's super stable, okay, and it's definitely easier to use than a Pro Staff Autograph. So why is this racket not the go-to racket in lots of people's hands in the club? Well, a couple of things at play here. You've got Kevin Anderson marketing it rather than a Roger Federer or a Rafael Nadal. The paint job for me is classic, but it's not like a standout like Pure Air Rafa or something like that you know your younger crowd are going to pick up and absolutely love. And maybe it's just not a racket on everyone's demo shelf, you know, in terms of the last 10-15 years. Maybe Dunlop lost that ability to maybe be the first thing in people's minds in terms of trying out new rackets. But this is a racket that is all about what this video is about. It's slept on. Give it a go. For those who maybe really like watching YouTube videos and watching racket reviews, this is a racket, when it's reviewed really well. Your tennis nerds, maybe like a tennis spin, something like that. This is a great racket to demo. Please give it a go because you'll be pleasantly surprised. Okay, so the next one I'm going to look at is a Tecnifibre TF40. This is a 305 model, okay? Again, super thin beam. I love the paint job. It's really nice paint job. They've got that string lock grommet system that Tecnifibre like to use now. And this is Tecnifibre's most controlled racket. So it looks very similar to, say, the RS305, the Medvedev version, because they've got that typically French looking style. It's a really classy looking racket in my eyes. This is the 305 version of the TF40, so it's 1820, a dense string pattern, and the 305 gram weight is a really nice weight for those looking for that solid feel but that manoeuvrability as well. It's definitely a very stable racket. Compared to, say, the Tecnifibre RS305, the Medvedev version, I find the RS rackets actually reasonably powerful. So the Tecnifibres, from the XDC now to the RS range of racket, they're surprisingly powerful rackets. They shouldn't be on paper because they're quite thin beamed, but they're very crisp and very powerful. For me, I prefer the feeling of the TF40, this one, than the RS305. That seemed a little bit too powerful for me at times, okay? And it was suits a flatter hitter like a Medvedev. This you can do anything with. It's a little bit more, it's a better feel, I think, on this racket. Really enjoyed slicing with this. I think very dialed in with my slice of this frame. Coming in volleys felt very good. And even though it's an 1820 frame, I didn't feel like I lost spin reduction on the ball at all. Again, I don't see many of these rackets around. It's not a very massively demoed racket for us, interestingly, because at that 305 weight, you're competing with a Pure Strike 1619, you're competing with the Head Extreme Tour. There's so many rackets, the V-Core 98 from Yonex, the E-Zone. You know, there's so many rackets that are super popular at that weight, first demos for people, but this is a slept-on racket, definitely. Look at the design and the colour, it's a really striking racket. You're going to stand out from people on court using this racket. Also, last tip I give it when demoing this racket, string it loose. I think full poly has to be in the 40s for this, or hybrid, string it 51, 52, 53. Don't go too high because you're going to feel it very dead feeling. It really is best at a lower tension, this racket. Give it a go, give it a demo. Okay guys, thanks for watching another one of our videos. It's the most slept on rackets, most underrated rackets. I don't see people using that all too often, but I think if people gave them more of a demo, more of a go, they would be right up there in terms of popularity. There are probably more players' rackets that we've touched on. There's definitely a few around those lighter weights that we might touch on in another video. If you want to see that, please give us a comment on the comment section below what you might want to see in terms of different brands we maybe haven't talked about as well, maybe a Volcal or something like that. Thanks for watching to the end of the video. Please, again, if you liked our videos, give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and we'll be back with more videos. Thanks guys.